So today we're going to have a little bit of a serious talk. This kind of spawned from some private conversations with people within the industry and their takes on what is going on with our brand and Hasbro and everything, and try to make sense of why we are where we are. Now, obviously, this is a little bit of a reaction to Hasbro's Q4 2023 and all the craziness that's going on. But why don't we break it down individually too, and why this is happening in a lot of ways? I mean, I've always felt that Transformers, at the end of the day, while it is a toy line, the success of the toy line has always been 100% related to the media. It's always been. If you go out and you're buying a legacy product, you're not buying that legacy product just based on the toy itself. There is a inherent amount of media related to that, and that's why you buy it. Oh, you're really hyped about that Commander class Armada Optimus Prime. It's because of Armada, the TV series, the comic book, the fiction, the video game, and your association with it. That's what always happens, and that's why legacy products does so well, is because it has all this media and all this nostalgia from the good feels for a lot of people, and that's why that stuff survives. I mean, legacy doing well, I mean, it's because of us old bloods, for the best way to say it. And when I say old bloods, I mean 80s kids, 90s kids, and yes, even some of you 2000 kids are now the old bloods. If you're a early 2000s kid, you watched Armada, or you were like 7 years old during the Michael Bay movies, you're in your late 20s now, so you're old bloods too. You're buying toys way out of the planned demographic, according to Hasbro. And when I bring up that stuff, that's why Legacy does well, and Studio Series, because it also targets some older parts of the Transformer brand. There is obviously newer stuff too. But that's where we lean into, well, what isn't doing well for Transformers? And it's the stuff that is the Earthsparks. It's the Rise of the Beast mainline stuff. It's, dare I say, even Botbots we're going to talk about today. And those three that are supposed to be our advertising tools, our commercials, if you will, for the product, did not perform and do well. Now, I'm going to say this at the top of this because too many times people get this stuff mixed up, and it's kind of a shame, but I do not hate these brands. I love the movie Transformers Rise of the Beast, but I'm also able to separate my emotions of me enjoying it and the facts of how it did at the box office, its ratings, its viewings, and other people's opinions and stuff like that. So don't think that I'm attacking your brand just because I'm pointing out the negatives of it. I enjoy these brands. So, I mean, some people, they get really emotionally attached with something, and when you point out even the slightest negative of it, it's almost like you're insulting their mother. It's very weird, and some of those people don't even like their mothers anyway, so it's pretty crazy. But just keep that in mind. So before you freak out, because Lord knows people freak out all the time, that's something that you have to consider. So we're going to start first, of course, with the biggest of them all that should have been, a big boon for us. Let's talk about the movie. Let's talk about Transformers Rise of the Beast. This was supposed to be our summer 2023 boost. Hey, this is going to come out. It's going to get the attention of the normies and the mainstream people, and it's going to get people to get into Transformers again after quite a hiatus. I mean, it was technically the longest we went without a Transformer movie since these Michael Bay movies kicked off back in 2007. I mean, between Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast, 2018 and 2023, it's been quite a while. We always got a movie every second year, at the least every year in some cases. And now we had to wait a good chunk. And it didn't work out, unfortunately. I was hoping the 90s Beast Wars kids would show up or something, but there clearly was something in the movie that poisoned people from wanting to go see it. And you have to understand, when it comes to movies, as opposed to let's say television that could live in reruns, and especially with streaming services where people could just catch it later on, even a week or two at their leisure. Movies, you have to trick people into the box office and into the seats in the theaters. When it's a Friday night and the casual people are there standing at the box office deciding what they're going to see, You have to trick them in there. You got to have a hook or something. And that's how movies like Avatar did well, even though they're not great movies, because they tricked people into the seats. It didn't matter if the movie was good or not. People just thought, oh, that seems like something cool. People didn't know if Rise of the Beast was a good movie or not. They didn't read reviews. They didn't get tricked. And I say it in a nice way. I don't say it in a negative way. It's the same with any movie. People get the hype of a Marvel movie. They'll go see it because of the hype. People won't see a Marvel movie because there was no hype. And unfortunately, outside of the hardcore Transformer fans, there wasn't any factor to really trick people into going to see Rise of the Beast. And unfortunately, when it was all said and done, Rise of the Beast of we'll call it the Michael Bay cinematic universe, live action cinematic universe, whatever you want to call it, was the lowest performing out of all the movies. And it was the only movie that really, when you nickel and dime it, lost money. I'll put up the chart. Even Bumblebee movie, which made more than Rise of the Beasts, only a little more. It only made a little bit, about 30 million more. But because the budget was significantly less for Bumblebee movie, it was a win for them. Where Rise of the Beast, between the marketing, the advertising, Super Bowl trailers, and we're going to get into in a moment the toys, it was a loss. And unfortunately, despite the fact that I enjoyed the movie, it didn't do well financially for Hasbro and for getting the word out for that, which is Transformers. So that's the first one that kind of was like the gut punch for Hasbro. Then we go into the second thing that we were introduced to, and it was that of Earthspark. And Earthspark was supposed to be our TV series. Here's our thing that's going to be floating, our TV series, and this is what's going to be on Nickelodeon afterwards. It would first be on Paramount as kind of the hook for their streaming service, and then of course have it on Nick, and then they could promote that too. And Earthspark didn't do well, and this comes courtesy of television stats, straight from the source that works with Nielsen and stuff, and has an extremely low engagement with audiences. In fact, when you look at the entire chart of Earthspark's, I guess we could call it ratings since the beginning, the only time they had a really high rating rank was May 12th, 2023. And I was like, that's an interesting number. What happened during May 12th, 2023? Well, it was actually in between two Earthspark episodes. It was in between episode 10 from season 1, Age of Evolution Part 2, and episode 11, season 1, #Oops, which happened in June. So what was the episode that came before then? So episode 10 was the pronouns episode. And I guess because of all the media attention that got both negative and positive, led to people tuning in, at least initially, to see what this Transformers Earthspark show is all about. And that's what led to that huge boost May 12th, 2023. But of course, people tuned in, and then they, haters and non-haters, and then it all went in the toilet from there. And then it has not been good since. It has an extremely low rating of 0.848, which is very low. And you could argue, oh, there's people on streaming services and there's people who are bootlegging it. Yeah, of course. But, at the end of the day, there's a way to measure this stuff with the mainstream. And, again, the people who are bootlegging it probably are the hardcore fans because they're going out and looking for it directly. People are streaming it. Again, they're going out of their way to watch it. People are going to watch it casually on television, which are, again, people that we need to get, the new faces. They were not engaging with this. They didn't care. And as a result, that then led to low toy sales. And right now, again, I have a lot of friends in retail. One of my best buddies since childhood, one of the head dudes at Toys R Us, and a whole bunch of different friends all over the place. They could come forward and say, yo, but they work in retail, and Earthspark has been a clearance item through and through. Right now, as we speak, you can pick up spin changers for, I think, like 30% off. And if you're going to Ollie's, all the One Steps and Warriors are between $3 and $5. It's pretty bad. So again, it didn't do its job. It didn't do its job of being a commercial to advertise the product and then get people to want to buy the product because of the connection with those characters. And the last one, unfortunately, is Transformers Botbots. And I constantly talk about how Botbots is one of the biggest mistakes in terms of how to do this commercial to product thing. Botbots was a toy line that debuted years before the show even came out. And by the time the show did debut on Netflix, there was no Botbots product on shelves. More so, there was no Botbot products on shelves that even reflected the characters. And then when Hasbro caught up to putting some Botbots product on shelves, that like lost wave, if you will, none of those characters that were in the show really were part of those products. The pizza racer and the out of control controller, so on top of that, if kids were, or even adults were engaging with those characters, whether it be Kick Me and Burgertron, if they wanted to own those characters, they had to buy them in the secondary market. Those characters were not readily available. They watch the show, they get excited, they go to Walmart or Target, and it's not there. You failed. And you know what? Those kids are going to go, oh, well, there's no Botbot toys. I guess I'm going to buy this Bakugan instead. And you lost them. You had a chance, and you lost them. And it's the same thing. Adult collectors, they're going to be like, oh, I guess I want to get a Burgertron figure. And then they go on eBay and go, oh, wow. Because you can't buy a Burgertron in retail, and the ones that are, from a couple years ago are going for big money. So it's something that just didn't work out. And again, low engagement, didn't do well, very low views. And people, they just didn't tune in. And to add insult to injury, Botbots was done by Hasbro's in-house animation studio, Boulder Media, which were the people that also did Cyberverse, Rescue Bots Academy, and of course, Botbots. And then Hasbro, hey, do you want a Botbot season 2? Well, Hasbro sold off Boulder Media because they needed the money in a similar move like how they sold off E1 Entertainment. So that's in jeopardy. Who knows how they're going to go about that one. So it's kind of bleak in that way, in that those three media properties didn't give birth to good product. Legacy is still doing well. They're still going to they're going to lean more into Legacy. They're going to talk more Legacy because the stuff that Legacy is based on stuff that was successful back then, and the memories still live inside those people. But that's not what you should lean on to completely. You got to make new properties, new media to grow the future. And I mean, just to kind of sidebar, Legacy is not 100% free of clearance either. There was a lot of, clearance stuff of Legacy and Studio Series. But to be fair, all of that stuff was store exclusive related, like, all that Walmart exclusive stuff that was going on crazy clearance, the buzzworthy Bumblebee stuff from Target that was going on crazy clearance. Of course, all that Speedia 500 stuff. That was all Walmart and Target pre-purchasing everything. That's kind of the deal with how store exclusives work, and ending up with way too much of that inventory. And then, of course, setting it to clearance and retail clearance places because they don't want to have to get stuck with it and they got to move on with their lives. But mainline Rise of the Beast and Earthspark just didn't do well with all retailers, and that was a problem. So, and I talked about this in the live stream on Saturday, but it's not terrible in the sense that, oh, it's the end of Transformers. It isn't. The stuff is, look, Masterpiece is still doing well. Japan still gobbles up everything Transformers. Again, the Legacy and Studio Series stuff still does well, so it shows that the older fans are still sticking around for that. So in the immediate future, there's still stuff that is going to keep trucking along and do well. But for the long term, they're going to have to build stuff in the brand of media to then foster a future, because us old guys won't be here forever. Now, granted, and I said this too, worst comes to worst, and Hasbro, worst case scenario, Hasbro stops producing Transformer toys. It's just not worth it anymore. It's not worth it to make a show. It's not worth it to make product. They'll just go about it like they did before with their partners. Takara will come in and they'll be like, all right, we'll make an anime and we'll produce our stuff, and you guys will just import it and localize it, much like you did with Robots in Disguise. There was a co-development with Armada, Energon, and Cybertron, but it is kind of the same thing. So it could kind of just be something like that. People for years we're used to that with Transformers and a lot of other anime brands. It'll just be no different. It'll just be something like that. And I don't have a problem with it, honestly. I think that we've had Transformers being done by Western companies fictionally for quite a while now, since pretty much animated. And of course, well, maybe before that with the movie, 2007 movie, but it's time to kind of throw the baton back to Japan and see what they do. It'd be pretty fun to see, but we will see. Let me know what you think. I know it's a bit of a big rant, but it is something I did want to kind of cover and just kind of put some of the notes out there and stuff, because I know there was a lot of people that were not happy about hearing how bad the things they like are doing. But you have to be honest with yourself, is that sometimes even stuff that you like, if it doesn't do well, there is a reason for it. There is an explanation and there is facts. Okay. You do got to have to just kind of deal with it. And we just got to move forward into 2024, which Hasbro even themselves said doesn't look very good right now. But we will see. We will see. At the end of the day, this brand will never die. It always just changes and transforms, not to sound, corny, but it always finds a way to survive. And in the past, during those lower years in the late 80s, early 90s, Japan picked it up. And then they picked it up again later on in other spots and pieces after the boom of the Beast era. So it's something that I could totally see, other ways that it could survive moving forward. And sometimes it won't have to have Western intervention with Hasbro. But we'll see what happens with that. Let me know what you think, guys. I know it's a long-winded one, but let me know what you think, and we'll talk again really soon here on the Transformer Slag podcast. And thank you for listening.